Let's pretend that you and I have been meeting for 3 months.
Okay.
Let's begin. Go.
Okay. It's been a tough week. Got a lot of tasks, a lot of projects at work. We're taking like 4 field trips in the next 2 weeks. One is a major, kind of a big event.
Yeah.
So I'm feeling some anxiety, hoping that everything works out real well. So,
Are you taking care of yourself like we talked about? Like, let's talk. You got to take care of yourself, man. You've been doing that.
yeah, I mean, I've been trying to. I mean, I got out on my bike yesterday.
Okay, so you're doing your bike. Good.
Yeah, so I did about 11 miles. So I felt a lot better physically. But then when I get up in the morning, my mind starts to race with all the things I have to do. And so,
Yeah, what I find is that if we don't take care of ourselves, stress will take care of us for ourselves.
yeah.
And so I really encourage you, man, to get back into those things, man, biking and the things you love, and so you can keep moving forward, man,
Mm.
Time. Okay. Thank you. What did you see there? Remember, we've been meeting for 3 months. What did you see there?
It was like an accountability check.
Accountability check?
I went through it.
Okay. All right. Seeing if he's being responsible for his life. Okay. What else did you see there in that interaction, that brief interaction? Iron Wolf?
Some reminders of just some reminders of self-care for a person.
So I was reminding him about self-care.
Yes.
Okay. What else? What about the process of the interaction? What is the quality of the interaction? What did you, let's say that continued like that for another 15 minutes. What is that?
Well, since you all have been meeting for 3 months, of course, there's some type of relationship that y'all have that
Yeah.
already established, and so therefore it's a little bit more of a laid-back type mentoring, like, hey, how you doing?
There it is. Mentoring. That is called mentoring. Mentoring is linear. It's one way. I am mentoring you. You are not mentoring me. It is me sharing wisdom. It is me sharing knowledge. It is me guiding you into a certain way of thinking. That's not what this workshop is about. Mentoring is very important in the work that we do. For you BAM people in the training today, mentoring is a big part of what makes BAM work. But it is just one part. And if all we do is mentor, we're not doing BAM work. If all we do is mentor, we're not doing Project Prepare. If all we do is mentor, we're not doing WOW, Community Schools. So what I'm going to ask you today is take mentoring and for 3 hours, forget about it and put it aside. Okay? We have a new volunteer into the circle. Could you just same thing? If you want to talk about yourself, if you want to pretend you're a student, if you want to talk about an issue, and we're only going to do this for 60 seconds.
Okay.
And we're going to assume we've been meeting for 3 months, and we'll go.
So anything?
Pardon?
Anything?
Anything you want.
So I've been having issues talking to my mom about growing up and how she raised me. And so I guess I just need some guidance in figuring out how to approach her because it is
Yeah.
a difficult subject. And I don't want to make her feel badly, but I also just want to talk about it and let her know how I feel.
Okay. Yeah, it's my mom's 78, and I'm going through something like that too, or I have been, and it's a balance for me of respecting that she's the generation ahead of me, and then also asserting myself of how I can talk to her, and so I'm still going through that, and I think it's a process. Tell me more about that.
Well, sometimes when we talk about it or I try to bring up the subject, she hits me with, well, I did the best I could do. And, in my mind, I'm thinking, well, it wasn't good enough. But I don't want to tell her that to make her feel even worse about, my childhood and what she could accomplish with what she had. So it's difficult.
Yeah. I have to respect where my mom came from and her background. That the way the reason I am who I am is in large part because of who my mom was. And so if I ever want to say something like that to her, like if she minimizes it, I back off. And because I don't want to put myself like where I'm going to teach you now or I'm going to show you. You know what I mean? So, time. Thank you.
No problem.
Okay. What did you see there?
You use your personal experience can relate to the situation that you've heard.
I used my personal experience. We've been meeting for 3 months, so we know each other. And I used my personal experience. Why? For what reason?
To connect.
To connect?
To empathize.
To empathize?
Comfort.
Pardon?
Comfort.
Comfort. It's comfort? Yep. That is called self-disclosure. I use myself in the therapy, in the counseling, to connect, to show enlightenment. Therapy is about one thing. Counseling is about one thing. Insight. We want our client, we want our student to have insight. That, oh, I never thought, wow, insight. Because once there's insight, then there's authentic change, right? And by me self-disclosing, I'm hoping that Tori goes, okay. Self-disclosure is a clinical technique. That's not what today's training is about. Very powerful stuff. We do that in our work with youth. We do that in BAM. Part of BAM is modeling, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
All right, we're going to talk about integrity today. I'm going to check in first. Here's where I struggle with integrity, guys. Man, you know, and our students are going, damn, you're talking about, Mrs. Smith, you're talking about your lack of integrity? All right, I'm going to check in now, man. If you can do it, I can do it. I'm asking you to put that aside today. That's a very important thing. We're not doing self-disclosure today. You could have a new person or a same person into the therapy seat. Travis, you say same thing. If you want to talk about yourself, if you want to talk about a real issue, if you want to role play you're a student, we've been meeting for 3 months in BAM, one-on-one. We're going to do 60 seconds.
All right.
Go.
So I'm having a hard time committing to grad school right now. It's something that I think is really important, and I know it's important to where I want to be. It's just with everything else going on, it's hard to prioritize it.
What do you think's holding you back?
I don't know. Part of it definitely feels like I'm just making excuses to kind of just make things as easy as possible, but I also feel really stressed out, and I feel like if I don't take care of myself by letting something go, then I'm gonna lose it.
What do those excuses sound like?
You can do it later.
Okay.
You can make it up some other way. You are really good at doing things quickly and in a time crunch. So
Okay. What's that about for you? Like, what do you think's the deeper meaning behind that you're saying that to yourself?
I don't know. It's something that like I've always done with school. I kind of
Okay.
minimize it a bit.
Okay.
Part of school just it doesn't always feel real. It doesn't feel like it's the real world. It's different.
Right.
So-
Okay. So, where do you think you learned that from? If you've been doing it so long, where do you think you learned that from?
I mean, I've been doing it since I was a kid. So like taking care of like family and stuff at home. School was cool. It was nice, but my main priority was making sure I was picking up my little brother and sister,
Gotcha.
taking care
Okay.
of them, and
So, what's the feeling behind that when you think about here's graduate school, here's the excuses? What feeling comes up for you?
it's hard. I don't really
Yeah.
know. It's kind of
What's that smile about? I saw a smile. So yeah, put a word to that smile.
It's almost like a mask.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I feel
Yeah.
kind of disappointed in myself because I don't feel like things are lining up. Like I know that it's important and I know that I value it, but I don't feel like my actions are meeting it. And like again, I feel like things are excuses. Like I can say that I have other things that's more important, that I got bills to pay, that I got to plan for other things surrounding my future and
Yeah.
things with my family, but none of that makes sense without school. And it's the same thing like it was when I was a kid. I knew that I needed good grades. I knew I needed to do other things, but I just didn't value school the way that I could and should have.
Thank you. All right. That was a little more intense, right? So, what was that?
Counseling.
What kind of counseling?
Directive.
Directive counseling. How'd you know? Directive counseling. I'm the director, you're the actor, and we go in the direction I want you to go in. I'm the expert, you're the client, you're paying me to be your therapist, I take you in the direction I think we need to go based on what you tell me. Directive counseling. Most BAM staff, when I go sit in circles, do directive counseling. Very powerful. You saw some of it with Kenton Bredegy. So what does that mean for you? Tell me right? That's directive counseling. Very potentially powerful stuff. I'm asking you to take that and put it aside. That's not what this workshop is about today. Matter of fact, every strength has a weakness, and sometimes people go so much into directive counseling, it becomes a weakness. Because if I'm directing, I'm not giving you autonomy to become the expert of your life. I'm saying, I know where you need to go with this. Follow me, okay? We're going to come back to that. Can I have someone else or someone saying your choice?
Okay. Well, how you doing, Tony?
Doing well, thank you.
All
Yeah,
right,
good to see you.
All right. Yeah, so just today, I've actually did something very powerful. Went on my computer and actually went through some files and started to delete some things, from my computer, and I realized that I'm actually, in a sense, is actually getting rid of some things out of my life, and it's because of you that I actually, made that choice.
So let me see if I understand. So what you're saying is that, so you're doing some computer work, you're
Yeah.
cleaning some files, and then you had this realization that you're actually getting rid of some things in your life, and you're saying I had a part of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I really thank you for it because
Yeah.
over the times that we have met, we sat down and we discussed my issue, especially that one issue, and it made me a stronger person. And I realized that if it wasn't for you, I probably wouldn't be sitting in this chair.
Wow. So what I hear you saying is that this is a powerful transition for you, and you really you're really valuing our relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and even though I understand, like sometimes work related, but even sometimes you just step out of that work related,
Yeah.
and you just you've done that mentorship, you've done that directive counseling, and you've really done that self disclosure, and I had to remember all three, but you did all of that, and because of that, I'm the BAM counselor that you taught me how to be.
We have a professional relationship. This is a work thing. But we've entered an area that it seems to have surpassed that.
Yeah.
And you're sounding. It sounds like that you're very appreciative. Is what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm very, very appreciative, and I'm also, just thankful and glad that I'm here.
Yeah. Good. Time. And thank you. Yeah.
I purposely waited for that.
Yeah. I saw that. Yeah, and it's great to have you back, brother. Yeah. Good man. What did you see there? Thankfulness, gratitude.
You almost always repeat it.
I repeated back what he said. Actually, I paraphrased. A lot of people say, oh, all you got to do is just repeat back what the person say. No, because if I would have repeated back what he said, I would have said, so you got up this morning, you went through your computer, you deleted some files. He's going to sit there and go, yeah, idiot, I just said that. That's not what reflective listening is, because that's what I just showed, reflective listening, client-centered listening, person approach listening, Rogerian counseling, Carl Rogers, Rogerian counseling. It is the belief that the client is the expert of her life. The client is the expert of his life. And my job as a counselor, as a therapist, is to simply become a mirror so that he can see himself more clearly. My job is to show empathy, understanding. My job is to show unconditional positive regard so that he can feel sense of worth. He doesn't have to prove to me that he has worth. My job is to show genuity. So when he says, hey man, good to see you, I go, yeah man, you too. Let me give you a hug, man. Genuity, okay? Talk about something in the here and now. He's talking about me in real life. Say, yeah man, we got a relationship here. That's genuity. My job is to reflect back what I'm hearing him say. Wow, you sound appreciative. Did he say appreciative? That exact word? No. And I may say, wow, man, you sound appreciative. And he may say, no, not really appreciative. Just, I feel happy. I go, okay, you feel happy. But he still feels understood, right? Or he may say, no, I'm not appreciative, man. I am profoundly, right, something even deeper. And I might go, so what I hear is that you're even more than appreciative. Or I may do some incongruency with him. I may say, well, hang on a second. You say you want to graduate. What I'm hearing you saying is you want to graduate from high school, you want to make your mom proud, but yet you're cutting class every day. You sound like out of integrity here. Never once did I direct him. Never once did I try to mentor him. Never once did I self-disclose. All I did was reflected back information he gave me. And he's going to sit there and potentially go, nah, man, I ain't out of integrity. Wow, so you sound angry right now. Well, yeah, man, because it's like, I'm coming here every day. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. All right. So let me see if I got this straight. What you're saying, see how that works? Go back and forth and back and forth. I don't see enough of this in the work that we do at youth. I don't see enough reflective listening. I see way too much mentoring, and I see way too much directive counseling. And I see sometimes too much self-disclosure where people do their own work, or I see under self-disclosure. Nah, I don't want to talk about that, man. My students, they don't want to go deep. You see what I'm saying? Reflective listening leads to all this other stuff. I once had a curriculum training going on with some BAM counselors. There were like 14 of us in a circle. And I went into the therapy seat. And I said, okay, we're talking about reflective listening. And I said, I want someone to come and give me reflective listening. I'm going to give you a real issue. And so one of the BAM counselors, this is last year, sat in the seat, and he's really good at reflective listening. That's his specialty. And so I started talking about my son, who's 23 right now. He was 22 at the time. And so I was talking about, like, ever since he's been 19 and no longer plays baseball, I'm not really sure how to be his father. Like what's my next step of mentoring him? I've always been involved in him like this. And should I, get more involved in his school and help him direct his life? I'm doing all that. And he took me on a journey. So what I hear you're saying is you're really lost. You're really frustrated. Going back and forth. He's listening. He's reflecting. 10 minutes in, through his reflections, I went, I just need to stay out of his way, man. I need to let him find his own way. So what I hear you say is you sound like you have a plan now, that kind of thing. And I went, yeah, man, I feel good. And to this day, that's what I've been doing for a year later, and he's finding his way. As soon as that role play was over, one of the BAM counselors who's watching this in the fishbowl said, man, I knew that's what you had to do from the minute you start talking. I would have told you that, instead of wasting all that time, I would have told you that right away. Here's what you got to do. And I said, okay. And I told the guy, I said, let's do that over. Let's do that whole scenario over. But this time, tell me what I should do. Tell me what he just said. So I sat down and I went, yeah, my son, he's 22, we were close, this and that. I don't know how to be his role model, ba, 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 ba. And he went, listen, man, here's what you got to do, man. You just got to stay out of his way, man. Let him find his own way. It's good for ba, ba, ba. And you know what I did? Yeah, but what you don't understand, man, is I became defensive. People don't want to be told what to do. People can't stand that shit. And they won't say it. Our students don't like that because our students get that all the time. Right? They are experts at receiving information from, man, stay away from drugs, stay away from this, stay away from that, all day long. And many people go, oh, I should get into psychology, man, or social work. I'm a great listener. People come to me all the time. No, because you tell people what to do all the time. You think you're a great listener. Reflective listening gives people a sense of empowerment. And once we give people a sense of empowerment through reflective listening, then they're open to hearing mentoring and your self-disclosure and some directive counseling and that kind of stuff. So that's my opening introduction. Welcome to reflective listening. Good to see you all. So what's the goal of today? 2 words. Integrated approach. The goal is not to become a reflective listener. The goal is to become an integrated listener. An integrated listener means that you as the clinician, you as the counselor, you as the HR person, you as the person who's in a listening role, blend all these styles together to fit your style and to fit what's necessary for the person sitting across from you. Because maybe that person doesn't need reflective listening right now. Maybe that person needs a kick in the ass and needs some mentoring. Listen, here's what you need to know, man, right? Sometimes that is what is needed. Maybe that person needs directive counseling. Maybe you need to self-disclose yourself. But there always has to be reflective listening. You can't go to those other things if you don't have reflective listening, because then we get frustrated. Well, how come he's not getting it, man? I told him 7 times, because we didn't do any reflective listening. There's no relationship. There's no understanding going on. So reflective listening allows for the beauty of integrated approach to happen. So we're going to isolate reflective listening today, do some role plays or things, and do some little lecture, so that you can now add it to your style, integrated approach. Let me become a professor for the next 10 minutes and bore you a little bit. You saw me do that a lot yesterday. And I want to teach you a little bit about where this theory comes from. Who created this? I think it's important to know that. It was a man named Carl Rogers. Now, nothing exists in a vacuum. He didn't create it out of thin air. He was influenced by others. You know, because counseling and psychology in the 1920s and 30s was all psychoanalytical. It was about the unconscious, you know, Freud. It was about repressed urges and psychotherapy, psychoanalysis, 3 times a week, laying on the couch and the shrink and all that kind of stuff. That was for decades, where you are a messed up person, you got all kinds of unconscious, unrepressed, or repressed issues, and therapy is going to bring all that stuff out. And then in the 1950s, the behaviorist movement started and said, wait, people aren't these kind of messed up, you know, unconscious people. We need to measure what we can see, and that's behavior. That's where token economies came from, you know. Hey, if you do these 5 assignments, you get a gold star. Reinforcements. We measure what we can see, empirical evidence. I think we have some people in the audience today who deal with a lot of empirical evidence and data, right? These were these people. And they said psychology needs to become evidence-based and empirical. And then the 1960s came along, which was a great decade of change. And so did psychology change. And Carl Rogers came along and said, hang on a second. Hang on. Back it up. Time out. People are the experts of their own lives. We need to empower them to find that, you know, by listening to them, by hearing them. Jimi Hendrix, you didn't listen to music, it was said. Jimi Hendrix heard music, right? We need to hear our clients. And he created this philosophy of what's called the therapeutic relationship. And he said, 3 things need to happen in the therapeutic relationship for reflective listening to happen. Number 1, if I want the person on the other side to benefit from this counseling session, my role is to be empathic. I have to show empathy. Empathy. Empathy means understanding someone's worldview. My job as the counselor is to understand what it's like to be you. Not to become you, not to feel what you're feeling, that's sympathy. If you talk about anger and then I start feeling angry, I've now sympathized with you. Man, my teacher wouldn't do this, my teacher wouldn't do that, my teacher wouldn't do this. Man, that's messed up. You got to deal with your teachers like that. You know what? I'm going to go talk to your teacher. That's sympathy. Empathy is still understanding, but without any personalizing it. How's the old Native American saying go? Never judge another until you've walked 2 weeks in his moccasins. Right? Understanding. How do we show empathy? We show empathy by a couple of skills we're going to work on today: paraphrasing and reflective listening. We'll get into that later. Number 2, Carl Rogers, Rogerian therapy, he said, in addition to showing empathy and understanding, I have to show what's called unconditional, positive regard. I regard you positively without any conditions. When you sit in that seat, you do not have to prove your worth to me. There's no condition. You don't have to bring me chocolates, and you don't have to say the right things. You have unconditional positive regard and worth. Conditional positive regard would be, all right, so let's do this counseling session. Listen, we can talk here. We really can't go too deep and talk about trauma. That's conditional. I do a BAM group with my students. All right, we're going to do some check-ins on integrity. And then we start checking. I go, oh, wait, we're going too deep. I don't want to get you guys going too deep. That's now conditional. It's not unconditional. What does conditional mean? It means that when my cat sees me come home and I put the electric can opener and I open up the can of food, 5 minutes later he comes running because he smells the aroma, right? If I do that for 2 weeks, he's going to start greeting me at the door because he wants to get fed. He's going to become conditioned that my presence means what? Food. It's unconditional at first. It has no connection. But he now hears the can opener and he comes running into the kitchen. And I come home and I open the door and there's my cat or my dog. And I'm like, oh, he loves me. No. Wants to be fed. But we tell ourselves what we need to tell ourselves. It's conditional. Okay? We're not doing that. We're saying you have no conditions to prove your worth to me. And if I don't like you, if you start talking about a topic that I can't deal with, I need to do one of two things. I need to go, I can't do this, and go to my supervisor and say, I can't work with this guy. He's pissing me off. I don't like him. He's talking about things. I can't be unconditional with him. I need a referral. Someone else needs to talk to him. I can't handle this employee. I'm frustrated. Jessica, you want to talk to him? Referral. Or, Carl Rogers said, I have to be genuine. All relationships have to be genuine, genuity. Wow, thank you for saying that you feel gratitude towards me. You know, I feel pleased to know you too, man. It's breaking the reflective listening, isn't it? But it's me being genuine, genuity. Hey, man, how you doing, Tone? So what I hear you're saying is you're asking me how I'm doing. No, that's BS. Genuity. Man, I'm doing great, man. Good to see you. How you doing? Genuity. I got to do a timeout right now. I'm feeling uncomfortable what you're talking about right now. You know, you're talking about hurting children, man. And that's genuity. Let's do a timeout. Last 4 sessions, you've come 15 minutes late. And I want to talk about that. That's genuity. We stop the therapeutic process to talk about something real, which is in essence what? Therapeutic. Right. That's why I always tell BAM counselors, you got your curriculum, do your curriculum step by step. But if you got your students on cell phones and playing the dozens and cutting each other up and insulting each other, and you're going, okay, let's do a role play. Time out. What's going on here, guys? Integrity. Who thinks that we're lacking integrity in the circle right now? Let's talk about the choice that you're making right now to not have integrity with the circle. That's genuity. Does that make sense? Yeah. So these are the three that Carl Rogers said we need for the therapeutic relationship. And I'm going to pass something out to you. Yeah. Yeah, go ahead. You can, if you want. Or it's right there, so yeah. Can I erase this? Everyone got it? Yeah. Yep. All right. So now it's time for you to practice some skills. Lecture's over. Professor Tony has left the building. Elvis died 40 years ago today. Okay. It's your turn to tell me. Skill number 1. Paraphrasing. You ever hear of a paralegal? Right? It means phrasing back para, sorta, kinda, right? Not word for word. So I'm gonna give you some stuff, and I would like for you to paraphrase it back. I don't know, man. It's like my mom wants me to do in school, man, but these security officers, these RoboCops, man, be getting on my last freaking nerve, man, coming in my face, telling me stuff, and I'm about done with this school, man. I'm about done with this, you know. And it's like, nah, I got my mom, you know. She. The only reason I'm coming is because of her coming to school and stuff. But I ain't gonna take no much more of these RoboCops getting in my face, telling me what to do. Who'd like to paraphrase back what I said?
So what you're saying is you're tired of people telling you what to do and it's starting to piss you off?
Yeah, it's making me real pissed off. I mean, I'm ready to punch a hole in the wall, man.
So what I hear you saying is that it's pissing you off to the point where you ready to do something?
Yeah, but I can't go down like that, man, because it's like, you know, my mom, man, I can't let her down like that. You know, she's, you know, I can't do that to her.
So what I hear you saying is you're frustrated, however, you understand that there are consequences to your anger.
Yeah, I don't care about the consequences, man. You do whatever you want to me, man, because I ain't letting no one punk me like that. I just don't want to hurt my mom.
So you're saying your mom is very important to you in the decisions that you make in your life?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, she's my mom, you know. It's like, I don't want to let her down, you know. She's always been there for me.
So you're saying it's very important to you how your mom feels and how your mom, how you portray yourself to your mom and how she sees you.
Yeah, I want her to see me like a man, you know. It's like, you know, my dad, you know, I don't even know who he is. It's like, hell with him, you know. It's like my mom's all I ever had, and it's like, you know, she's the one who's been there for me every day.
So I hear you saying the absence of your father may have impacted you in a way that perhaps you're unsure of?
I'm not sure what you mean.
So the absence of your father negatively impacted your life, do you think, is what I hear you saying?
I don't think about him. It's like he ain't nothing to me, you know. He's just like, I could see him on the corner, man, and I wouldn't even give him a glass of water. You know, it's like, you know, my mom is everything.
So what I'm hearing is that you didn't learn how to be a man from your father. You kind of learned that from your mom, and now you want to show her that you can do that too.
Yeah, and you know, I'm learning in this BAM program too, you know. It's like, you know, what you've been teaching me about like integrity, and like my mom taught me. She never like said it like that, but you know, it's like I'm learning a lot now in this program.
So what I'm hearing is that you're taking those steps to grow as a man, and you've been taught to do it from your mom, and now you're continuing what she taught you.
Yeah, it's like growing or something. It's like I'm growing and stuff, But I'm not letting these security punks call me out like that, man. It's like I'm sick of them. I'm tired of them, man. I ain't dealing with that no more.
So what you're saying is you're trying and you're growing all the time, but there's still some things that are happening right now that's making that growth hard.
They don't care about me. Mr. Cartwright's always on my ass for no reason, man. He just don't like me, man. He don't like Italians. That's what it is. That's what's going on. I know how he is.
So what
I know where his car is too, though.
So what I'm hearing is that you feel like people might be judging you for things outside of your control.
Oh, I'll control him. He wants to come at me. I'll control the situation.
So you want to take control, but you don't necessarily feel like you have that now?
I just know that'd break my mom's heart, man. I ain't doing that no more to her. I'm tired of seeing her like. I'm more concerned about how she feels than Mr. Cartwright. I ain't letting that control me, so I go do something bad to my mom. So yeah, it's like you said, time. Let me tell you something. I've done this training for years. That was like the best I've ever seen. You guys were awesome, man. It was awesome. What was that like for you? Even watching, those who, what was that like?
Damn, I should have been doing this sooner.
I wonder how many people I jacked up.
What was some of the process? What were some of the things you noticed happen as a result of you doing paraphrasing?
It calms you down.
Calmed me down, didn't it?
The biggest thing that I was noticing, and this has been about myself, like, it was hard not to just come out and say, look, you need to do this.
Yes.
Like, everything in me was screaming, tell this band what to do. And it's like, no, you have to pull back. You got to fight, like, that natural urge. And
What would have happened if you would have started telling me what to do?
You would have got defensive.
and would have lost all the progress that we've made. Like, we've been building up to this point, and now it's like you're planning and buying everything for this huge party, for this huge celebration, and then you just set it on fire.
And what am I not saying to you as you're telling me what to do? What's not being said that I'm saying to you?
Don't tell me what to do.
Don't tell me what to do. Another adult telling me what to do.
And also it forced me personally to really listen.
Yeah. Like Jimi Hendrix said, really hear me, right?
To really hear
Yeah.
what you're trying to say.
Right. Because you're catching all the little subtleties now, right? You're catching the little. You're not so absorbed with what you want to say. You're totally, I erase it, empathic, hearing my world. And you could even do like I did with you. You could even be empathic, like, yes. I mean, I hear what you're saying, and it sounds. I mean, even your face, you're angry right now. Sounds like it seems like you were calm. Now you're getting angry again talking about Mr. Cartwright. And then you can go into some directive counseling. So tell me more about that. What's going on for you? See what I'm saying?
That was my question. When is that a good, when is it good or when is it okay to switch?
That's
Like a impulse, like a.
it's based on your judgment, right, Matt?
Yeah.
And Tony, had to continue, the next question I was going to ask was, okay, so what I hear you saying is you don't want to disappoint your mother, you want to make her happy, but you can no longer take what you feel in disrespect, and you want to do something.
Right.
How does that look for you? What else can we do?
That's a perfect transition, because you have spent a lot of time listening to me and paraphrasing and reflecting back,
Now you can.
and you've earned that right to go ahead and say, okay, what are we going to do about this?
And they're still in control. They're still.
I feel heard.
That's good.
Right,
Isn't
because
that
what
good
I'm
stuff?
getting is like, don't pull out too early. Even if you feel like there's something that needs to be done, a huge part of what you're doing is building that relationship too, in order to give you that opportunity. So if you see that opportunity, don't pass up on it and then forget where you were going to go with it, because you can always go back. So lock it in, but continue digging and build that environment, and then build that into the conversation that's already happened. And yeah, like I said, this is like, it's killing me right now because there's been so many times when I've gotten half measures from the people I've worked with, and I'm like, it's because I was telling them what to do, and they have flat out expressed that to me too, but I didn't really have another way. It was like, man, I feel like every time I'm talking to you, you're giving me good advice, and I know that I need to do it, but it's hard. And it's like, that's because, God damn it, you haven't decided to do it for yourself. You're doing it for me, not for you. And it's like, I appreciate that, and it makes me feel good to know that they have somebody that they need to do that for, because a lot of times they haven't had anyone that's they felt the need to push themselves for. But at the end of the day, that's not enough. Like, doing it for someone else is never going to be enough. And it's not enough to cause change here or anywhere else. And it's I'm really going through something right now.
That's great, man. That's great.
I'm seeing faces.
You're having a paradigm shift.
I'm seeing and like,
great,
I want to
man.
go back to the school I used to work for.
So what I hear you saying.
Look, this is what I did before, but this is what we need to do. I'm going somewhere else, and we can keep in touch. But before we limit this relationship, we got to do this first. Like,
Have you ever had a really great workout, and maybe you didn't want to do the workout, maybe you were procrastinating, and not only was it a good workout, but it was even overextended. Like maybe you were going to do 30 minutes and it would turn into a 45-minute or a 60-minute workout, and when you got done, you felt like on cloud nine, you felt high as life, you felt all the endorphins kick in, and you walked away going, why am I not doing this more?
Yeah, last night.
I'm doing last night he said. Right. And then you're like, I'm doing this every day.
Right.
And then the next day comes, and either it happens or then the things kick in where we're like, and then we go into a pattern.
Yeah.
I equate reflective listening to that. I can do a counseling session. I had a good breakfast, I'm well rested, and I come into the counseling session and I'm in full reflective mode. And the session is like my client's leaving, my student's leaving with so much insight. And I'm sitting there going, I'm a good counselor, man, because I know how to do this. Like, I got to stick to this. I'm going to do reflective listening 80% of the time now. That is it. And then as the day goes on and I get hungry and a little cranky and this goes on, next thing you know, students are coming. I'm going, listen, man, why are you getting kicked out of class, man? How many times have we talked about this? Right? It's the same thing. So it's a skill, and it takes a lot of grit, and it takes a lot of commitment, and it takes a lot of dedication. And I don't beat myself up over for it anymore. I just remind myself to get back to it. Let's go into number 2. There's 2 skills we're going to learn today. Paraphrasing. Actually, there's 3, which is a surprise. Okay. You guys actually did this in some of your role play right now, but we'll get into it specifically. Paraphrasing is content, right? It's taking back what you said and paraphrasing it back to you. It's focusing on just getting the data. Content means what the person is saying. My youth come into the circle, and we're doing academic integrity check-ins, talking about their first quarter or second quarter grades. They know what the value of integrity is. We've been working on it for a while. And, you know, okay, Portia, check in on your grades. Well, I got a D in this, I got an A in this, I got a C in this, I got an F here, and I got an F there, and I got a... Okay. So, how did you earn those grades? Well, I did this. Okay. So when do you study? Okay, right. And then, okay, when did you turn yours? That's content. I'm getting the information. That's what paraphrasing is, getting the information. Reflection of feeling is process. Process is not what the person is saying, it's how the person is saying it. So, Its process is how the person is saying it, or what's not being said, the way a person is saying something. So as Portia's checking in about her grades, and I'm paraphrasing and getting content, I can switch into process and go, so it sounds like you really don't care about your grades. She never said that. But as she's talking about the grades, she's going, yeah, I got enough here, man. I got enough there. Instead of going into content, well, listen, man, maybe you should try to study harder. I'm missing the boat. If she's sitting there being nonchalant about it, as the therapist, I need to pick up on that process and go, so, I'm genuity, remember? I'm getting a sense that this isn't a big deal to you. That's reflection of feeling. It's reflecting back like a mirror what a feeling that she's presenting. I may be off base. She may say, no, I care about school. And all I have to do with that is not get defensive and go, okay, oh, so you care about school? Yeah. Then I can go back into reflective list. I go back into reflection. You cared about school, and yet you have 3 failing grades. Well, what had happened was I could do that, and you go on the journey with it. Reflection of feeling. You paraphrase, and then you go ahead and throw what Carl Rogers said is a confrontation or challenge. A lot of people don't like this type of listening because they feel it's too passive. They feel it's not confrontational enough. They feel it's not problem solving enough. They feel it's not getting to the solution oriented focus enough. And Carl Rogers would have said, This gets to that if you believe in the process. Because what Carl Rogers would do is he would challenge and confront through what he called incongruency, pointing out 2 things that are far apart from each other. You say you want to do this, but you're acting this way. You say you want to take care of your body, but you're drinking 40s and smoking blunts every day during 3rd period. Where's the connection? And the way he would do it was he would do it through reflective listening. So Matthew, let me see if I understand this right. Let me see if I get this right. You're saying, what I hear you saying is that peace and tranquility is something that you strive for. And yet it sounds like you're getting a lot of pleasure out of punching holes in walls in the school. Now, he never said the word pleasure. But I hear him talking about his joy of punching holes in the wall in school. Because he's got a smile on his face. And he's talking about how it's justified. But then, like we say on the Southwest side, the other side of his mouth, he's talking about peace and tranquility. So I hear an incongruency, peace and tranquility, punching holes in walls, and it seems like he's enjoying it. So my job is not to go into, you enjoy it, man, I see it. No, he's going to get defensive. Carl Rogers would say to reflect it back. So let me see if I get this right. You believe in peace and tranquility. Matter of fact, it's something you're really trying to get in your life. That's an affirmation. He's going to go, yeah, right. And yet, now I can get a little serious. And yet you're punching holes in walls. And from the look on your face and the way you're talking about, you really enjoy that. Peace and tranquility and enjoying being violent.
Gotta let go of that anger.
Woo! You gotta let go of that anger. Right. And it's not, so what I'm hearing is that you got to release that anger, even if it's destructive, and even if it goes against your belief that you were talking about earlier of bringing peace to the world. See how I'm doing that? I'm challenging and confronting his worldview through information that he gave me. And he may say to me, man, why are you telling me what to do? Why do you keep asking me these questions? And have I asked him one question? No. Sounds like, or this is it. I'm doing that kind of thing. Reflection of feeling or reflection of thought. So you think, it really sounds like you think that the world needs to be fair to you, is what I'm hearing. Could be a reflection of thought. Could be a reflection of value. It really sounds like integrity is important to you. Could be a reflection of, and for those of you who are in HR or are working in leadership, The reflection of thought is a safer one sometimes than reflection of feeling. Because it may be like, okay, I'm not a therapist, I don't want to go into the feeling so much, but you can go into reflection of thought. Okay, I see what you're saying. So for you, if you got to come to work late because you had to drop your son off to childcare, you're not going to make that, you're going to sacrifice it. Your child's going to come first. That's what I hear you saying. That's a reflection of value, right? And then your employee or the person you're working with can sit there and go, no, I mean, that's not it because I know I'm going to lose my job. Or they may say, yeah, I'm not making that. And then you got information to now go into head and say, okay, well, we have a problem here. Or whatever you need to do. Right. So let's go into the same scenario. Let's do some reflection of feeling. I'd like you to paraphrase this time, but listen to what's not being said or listen to some other stuff, okay? I'm still not fully sure how I want to interact with my older brother. I'm 49, he's 50, gonna be 58 next week, in 3 days. He's gonna be 58 years old. And he's lived a life ever since he was a young teenager of drugs and violence, in and out of jail. And he still has a lot of that personality to this day, even though he's sickly, he's becoming feeble. The drugs have caught up with him. He's more humble. He's not a physical threat like he was in his prime. And I'm still, if he wasn't my blood brother, I would have absolutely nothing to do with him. And I've done a lot of work on this with Baradaji and Kent and in therapy and in my men's work. And yet I'm trying to find compassion and love for him to this day. And it's difficult. It's difficult for me, you know.
I'm getting that you feel a lot of judgment towards some of the decisions that your brother has made, but on the same hand, you still feel like there's something there that you need to work on to strengthen your relationship, that's something that's important to you.
I don't know if it's so much the relationship. It's more, for me, I think it's a higher level of integrity. As I preach this BAM program, I think about the value of integrity, from a simple thing of being a man of my word to being a man of character. And it's almost like it's at 49, this is something I can look at that I couldn't at 39. Hell no, at 29, when I was in the midst of it, of how he's lived his life. But at 49, I'm entering a phase of my life where it's about integrity of having compassion and empathy for him. And to not let my judgment become condemnation, where I'm condemning him. I don't have to I don't have to become brother. I don't believe that will ever happen. And yet I no longer want to be where I want to find a balance of that.
It seems like your feelings around your relationship with your brother and where you want to take that is built around your own personal development and your own personal growth.
Yes.
And that relationship is a part of that, and it's not so much a familial relationship or familial desire. It's more so of a more professional development challenge for you.
Yeah, it's definitely a growth in myself. I do my BAM Origins presentation, and I just did it 2 months ago. And Baradaji, who's seen it many times, went like, "You presented on your brother differently." He goes, "You're more at peace," because before I would present still with in my face, And I was like, "Yeah." I saw my brother about 3 months ago, back in May, walking down the street on Archer Avenue. He's back in the neighborhood, and as soon as I saw him, I went, "Oh my God, he's got to be up to no good." Last I heard, he was in a halfway house, and now he's walking down the street. And I was going to the gala actually, and I kept driving, like, just keep going, Tone. And then it hit me. I was like, where in this world, what world do I live in that I would ignore my mother's son, my own blood brother? And I turned around, and I got out, and we started talking, hugged, and I reconnected with him. And since that time, sometimes I'll call him, and he's high and drunk, and he's blaming the world and calling people You know, my family, I'll call my mom that. And then there's other times where he's like loving. And I'm trying to do my best to tap into that loving part, is what I'm struggling with. And to not ignore that, but not to condemn him for who he is anymore.
I'm getting that you have a lot of feelings of pride around the work that you've been doing, and you're really taking stock of that. But you also have some reservations in terms of what more you can do. And
Yes, I don't think there's anything else I can do. See, that's the thing. I can't rescue him. I can't fix him. I don't want to. I'm not going to become brother where we're hanging out every weekend. I think it's my mother. It's like my mom's 78 now. I think it's that I don't want her. It's my mother's son more than I'm trying to develop a relationship with my brother, I feel like. It's like, that's my mother's son. I can't do that or something.
So it sounds like you're wrestling with feelings of guilt. When you said that you saw your brother and you passed him, but then you went back and talked to
Good.
him, and perhaps those feelings of guilt may be frustrating you because I've heard you say that you want to be more compassionate for your brother, but there's this other part of him that you just don't want anything to do with.
Yes.
And that wrestling with guilt is really frustrating you because you want to be here, but you're not sure how much value you should place to that.
That's really good. That's really good. I've never thought about it like that. That it's possibly some guilt of I've condemned him for so long, and part of me says like, "Fuck yeah, this stuff he's done, hell yeah, I condemn him." And then the value now of who I've become, that's not part of, I don't like that part of myself. I don't know if that's my shadow or I'm trying to, it's like I don't want to be that way towards people. And he's more than people, he's my blood brother. So you're right, it's a value thing, it's feelings of guilt and dealing with the part that feels righteous of what I said. Like if he wasn't my brother, I wouldn't ever associate with a person like him.
Can I say something real quick?
Yes.
At this point, I would go into self-disclosure
Yeah.
and be like,
Yes.
I have the same-
That's
I
what I
have this exact same problem with my father.
Yes.
I was going to
with
say
my
the same
mother.
thing. I couldn't wait till you
We
stopped.
clearly all have family issues.
That's a perfect, I'm glad you said that. So let's transition out of this. That was real. Right? And I gave you something real intently because I wanted you to, I want to make it where you could really get into feeling. You did it.
Tony, this is actually harder than I thought with the mindset of the mentoring and, you know, coming from a,
It's harder than you thought?
yes,
How so?
yeah. Because it was like, each time I wanted to say something, I couldn't get my words the way that I wanted. Like, I'm listening to, you know, he did a great job, and even, you know, she did. And I'm sitting and I'm saying, you know, I would have said similar, but a different way,
Yep.
not knowing if it would have even been correct or what have you, or if I would have just went straight into judgment.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, went into, you know, how I felt or how, you know, my connection with my brother is the same way. Because I was at that origin meeting, so it's like, I mean, when you did it, so
You knew it was
I
real.
feel, yeah.
Yeah.
So I feel like, you know, here talking to you so many times, and you know, I feel like I know your family like that.
Yeah.
And it's like a personal thing almost.
Yeah,
It's like,
right,
well,
right.
dang, Tony, you should, you know,
Right.
going back to, you know.
And I may need that eventually. I may need self-disclosure. I do need self-disclosure. I do need mentoring and guidance on it. I would eventually need that. And it's okay if you don't know what to say, because all you have to do is just show your empathic listening. Think about it like this. Think about baseball. Any baseball players here? Yeah? Baseball coach. You know, one of my, you know, being a diehard fan of the 2005 World Series champion White Sox. Oh, did I say that? Did that come out? Baseball, I don't play baseball. I played rubber, fast pitch, and Swift growing up, but I was never a baseball player. My son used to laugh at me, trying to play. But it's my favorite sport. I love watching baseball. I think it is the most difficult sport to play, and I think that the pitcher and catcher combination is it. You hit a 98-mile-hour fastball or 83-hour curve, and you got a 300 average, you're something, right? And so when I see people who go to games, Cub fans, and they say, like, it's so boring. I'm like, you don't get it. Like, pay attention to the pitch count and watch what's going on. And then I listen to the batters speak. Rod Carew from the 70s, Derek Jeter. I'm talking like guys who hit 315 on average. The best, Miguel Cabrera, the best baseball players. And they go, man, I was in a slump here. I went 2 for 37, 2 hits out of 37 at bats. Professional players. How did you get your swing back because you got out of that slump? Well, I went with my batting coach and I went back to the basics and I went back to just getting that V. How do I get that V again? And that's the same thing with counseling. If I'm listening to someone, and you could raise your hand if you've ever had this, or if you're doing HR, or if you're working in data, whatever it is, and you're talking to someone, I get a sense of panic. A student comes in my office, oh, Mr. Tony, here's what's going on. Pa, pa, pa. Employee comes into your office, and I'm going, oh man, okay, I got to solve this. Oh, wow. And I panic, and I've been doing this 25 years, and I panic. And what gets me back out of panic? Tone, go back to the basics. Okay, so what I hear you saying is that your brother's important to you. And once I go back to the basics, then I get back into hearing, and then those reflections, those deeper reflections, will come naturally. Does that make sense? Good, great. So I'm leaving this role play actually with insight from all of you, especially what you said about the guilt part. That's the power of reflection of feeling. Is you're not telling me that I'm guilty, because I'll get defensive if you said that. Damn, dude, you got guilt you got to deal with. No, it ain't guilt. You deserve to be. I get defensive. But you listen to me, you paraphrased, you've reflected guilt, I can hear it. And it's called the moment of truth. It made sense with my gut. I felt it like, yeah, I think it is some guilt. And I may walk out of this counseling session going, man, Miss Beasley, man, she's awesome. She told me she told me that I got guilt to deal with, and you never once told me I got the guilt to deal with. I said it. I just didn't say it. Let's take a break. Okay. Number 3. Who has an idea what it is? It's one that most people are very fearful of. It's one that most people avoid. It's one that most people find the most uncomfortable. And yet, it's one of the most powerful skills to have as a counselor, as a HR person, and relationships in general. Number 3 is silence. Number 1 mistake that counselors make is this. Let me show you. Number 1 mistake. I'm the therapist. This is a group. Matthew, will you role play that you're crying? That you're checking in, you're crying?
My mom died. She was my world.
Time.
was trying not to laugh.
We are not rescuers. You're not talking to your employees to rescue them. We are helpers. We are listeners. Once in a while, we rescue. That's part of our job description, but we are not in rescue mode. My job is not to sit here and rescue you. My job is to provide a container for you to explore. And silence allows me to become comfortable with being uncomfortable. Because me giving you that tissue is not about you. It's about me being uncomfortable. I'm uncomfortable with the fact that you're crying, and I got to stop those tears. But what I'm going to tell myself is, no, I'm just being nice and courteous. Now, I should have tissues out here if he chooses to grab them. Or eventually I can say, you know, when we do some work, would you like some tissues? But not to rescue him. We were doing an interview in Boston 3 weeks ago. We got all our candidates. They're here this week, actually. And we were doing an interview, and this guy was like clinical as you can get. Degrees, clinical. He didn't take the position. But we were doing it in our interviews. You know, we go into this phase in the WOW and BAM where we get like real personal. And he went there. And he started talking about his family. And Sean Brown, who's the executive director, you know, he's the executive director, he's not a therapist. The interview guy started crying as he started talking about, and Sean bolted out of the room. And in the middle of the tears, the guy went, man, I hope he's not going to get me tissues. You're not supposed to do that as a therapist. And he's breaking down, right? And then Sean came back, he's like, got tissues. Like, you're not supposed to do that. Yeah. So let's do some silence. Let's do a little BAM work here. Let's do a little BAM group. Notice your feet, and notice your feet on the floor. And I want you to imagine that your feet are rooted into the ground. Yeah, you're now on ground. Feel that sturdiness of your feet. Deep breath in, and nice little cleansing breath. Notice the small of your back. Notice your small of your back against the back of your chair. And make sure it's flush. Yeah, another deep breath in. And relax. Notice your shoulders. If you're like me, I slouch a lot, and I have to remind myself not to slouch. So let's take your shoulders and rotate them back and your chest up, and feel that stretch, how powerful it is, and breathe out. If you want to go ahead and do some neck rolls, let go of the moment. Forget about what you got to do at noon today. Let that go. Acknowledge it. Forget about what you have to do tonight. Let that go. You can come back to that. And just take in this moment. Just go around with one word. What are you feeling right now? One word. Darnell?
Relax. Relaxed.
Anxious.
Refreshed.
Refreshed.
I can hit the restart button now after being relaxed.
Yes. Thank you.
Relax.
Relax. Challenge.
Calm.
Needed. This is what we bring into counseling as well. Silence. Silence is very powerful. It has potential to have our clients go even deeper if we just get out of their way. So many times I want to fix the problem and I want to be active, and I think that I want to show off my counseling, that I forget that it's about the client and just sometimes getting the hell out of the way. Just by the fact that I'm with my client is sometimes enough. Just the fact that he's come into the youth guidance room at the school and is sitting with me is healing enough. Just the fact that your employee comes and sits down and is venting about her salary, his salary, and not getting the promotion is enough. And you don't have to do anything except And he or she may walk out and go, man, thank you so much for helping me. And you're like, what did I do? We do a lot of this. I don't know about the WOW program, but in the BAM program, a big part of our curriculum is this. Especially when we get to the self-determination value, and breathing and meditation and progressive muscle relaxation is a huge part of it. And we'll have our youth do 10 minutes, sometimes 15 group missions. Think about that, 10 minutes for 8th graders to sit there in silence. And yeah, you check in and they're like, I was anxious, I didn't know what to do. And others go, wow, after like, I lost track of time and I went to a place and then they come back and they're like, man, Mr. Travis, man, I did that breathing in class. Man, dude, man, it works. You know, man, I calm my... So I would challenge you that the next time you're with your clients, the next time you're with your students, the next time you're talking to your colleague or your employee who's underperforming or whatever is the case, to go ahead and remember this silence. And even if your client or employee says something like, this is messed up that this is going on. You don't have to have a response. That is your response. Right? Why do we say in our groups, aho, or are you in? Because what if I'm checking in and I'm like, yeah, that's what's going on with me, man. Life's just not working out. And that pause may be that I'm still going to a place. And if I'm rushing the process and not silent, I've just robbed that person of a chance to go to another place. So. And that's why we always say, like if there's silence, I may go, are you in, Bill? And you may go, oh, yeah, I'm in, which is usually the case. However, once in a while you may go, which means I'm still in it, like give me time. So. You ready for the final role play? And it's actually not going to be me. It's going to be you all. To find a partner, go anywhere in the room you'd like, and practice integrated counseling, which means your partner can talk about anything he or she wants. It could be a role play, it could be a real thing, it could be made up, whatever you're comfortable with. And you're going to do about 3 minutes. 3 minutes. The person on the other side, call yourself whatever you want, counselor, mentor, friend, whatever you want to role play. Set the scenario up, or if you and to go into integrated counseling. Start with reflective listening and paraphrasing. Always start with that. And then when you feel you're ready, go into self-disclosure, go into directive counseling, questioning, mentoring. But don't forget to bring reflective back every so often. Just don't do one paraphrase and go right into mentoring. Do it for a while. Do some silence. And then we'll switch. And then we'll come back and talk about how that was. Is everyone cool with that? That was more than 2 minutes because you guys seemed like you were really into it. So we went that was about 6-7 minutes, people. That was a long time. You guys went a long time. That's great. That was like a real counseling session. In schools, we're gonna have 10-minute sessions, right? Brief encounters, which are really, you see how powerful they can be within 10 minutes. From your seats, let's do what's called an experiential check-in, which means whether you were the listener or the speaker, what was it like for you to be in this role? What did you get out of it?
Some relief, some relief.
Some relief.
Yeah, talking about certain issues that have been bothering me.
Yeah.
Just to have an outlet for somebody to feel no judgment and that's
What's that called when there's no judgment?
Unconditional something.
Unconditional
Unconditional positive regard.
Gold star. Unconditional positive regard. You felt non-judged, and I heard what's called catharsis. You felt a cathartic experience. You were able to just simply get it out. And how did you feel? Was she listening to you?
Yes. I definitely identified her reflective listening and her self-disclosure. And you did a really good job segueing into the self-disclosure. Because I was like, girl,
Nice.
I need to hear
Okay.
something.
That's integrated approach. How about for you, Portia?
I'm glad she noticed that because I was trying to be intentional with hitting every technique that you mentioned.
Yeah.
Except for silence. I don't think there was an opportunity for me to be silent. But there was a moment where she kind of took a breath and I let her have her moment. And
That's
we
silence.
kinda-
That's
Okay,
good.
so it doesn't have to be like this long
No.
break.
No.
Okay. So I guess I did. I tried to be intentional about integrating all of the techniques
Great.
that you mentioned today.
Yeah, and silence can also be just a silencing of oneself, to just listen, right? To not have to be like, okay, what am I going to say? What am I going to say? What am I going to say? Okay, silent, just listen. Sheila, how was it for you?
I could, he was so good in like paraphrasing things. So when he was doing that, I was talking about like how I missed my family back in my country, and
Yeah,
here
we
I
had
have
switched.
my own
Yeah,
family.
I see that.
So getting very caught in between, like it is so nice to talk to somebody whom I have never met, like because these are the things I can't talk to my family here, neither there or anywhere. So I felt I could had that openness, and when I did that to him, I could reflect myself. So I got like what I am. So I felt like, oh, I'm not guilty. It's okay. So I could reflect that.
I love what you're saying there. You hear what she said, how powerful that was? Through his reflections, I could now reflect myself. We're actually teaching our clients skills, aren't we?
Yeah.
Because when we walk out of there, we're like, it stays with us.
Yeah, sometimes we feel like we are so guilty, but
Yeah.
when other people listen and you're more open, there is no, you reflect yourself.
Yeah.
So I just learned that.
Very good. Nice.
For us, I was the client, and to start, the silence was used, and that felt really like overwhelming, and so I had to like fill the gap with like more words, and then I just kept going and kept going.
You were the therapist.
I was the client.
Oh, the client.
Yeah. And so like having someone who's there listening, I feel like I have to give more words since he's not responding, and it's like you don't know why they're not responding, and so you feel like you got to clarify, and then that forces you to dig deeper and even explain better to yourself what exactly it is that you're feeling. And then that reflection of feeling, like I didn't even realize that he was doing the reflection of feeling until after we stopped, and then I went back and looked at it, and I was like, so what exactly was he using to get me to like speak more? And it was so subtle, it was so quick, and like I know I can be long-winded, and so like one of my biggest worries with the reflections with the paraphrasing and the reflection of feelings is that I'm going to do too much. And he was like, so it seems like you're feeling this, and it would just be like one word around my experience or two words around my experience, and it wasn't a fear of getting it wrong, because when he was wrong, then I would just clarify,
Right.
and that opened it up to be even more. And I think that's another tool to like kind of treat it almost conversational. Like, don't be afraid to get it wrong. If you feel like you're getting that interpretation, then that needs to be, they need to express it more clearly, because then they can understand what they're feeling more clearly too.
Yeah.
So
Wow, that was a powerful session.
So,
you guys.
I didn't feel like there was any long like pause between him talking,
Right.
and he talks quick just like I do, but I didn't feel like there was any like extended pause, and
Sure.
it kind of felt like at times where I was just waiting for him to kind of stop getting it out. So I didn't mean for being
No,
extended
but-
silence, because I know I was using silence because he was talking, so I didn't want to cut him off. So I thought it was important for him to get it all out.
There's the two extremes. Great work. There's the two extremes. there's where you can't get in a reflection, and what do you do with that? And the other extreme is, what if you have somebody who's like, what do you want me to say? I don't know. I did this training last summer, and I had a participant come in from, I think, the Project Prepare program. And you remember how we opened up this morning with, I did the role plays with you all? She came in, and it was the part where it was reflective listening, where I was showing what reflective listening was. So she sat down, and I said, let's talk about your weekend, whatever you want, anything you want. And she went, weekend was great. And I went, and everyone's watching this, and she went, and she goes, I don't know what to say. And I said, yeah, you really don't know what to say. And she went, and everyone's watching me tank, but I'm not tanking. And it's the uneasiness you can cut with a knife. And I knew I had to stay in reflective mode if I was going to get the worth of this across. If I was feeling like, okay, should I go into directive counseling to kick it off? Should I go into mentoring? That's why I asked you when he did that, did you still stay with reflective listening? Because the temptation is so strong. Okay, this is so awful, this silence right now. It's overwhelming silence. I got to ask a question because this is awful. And I just stayed quiet. And she was like, I'll just say, yeah. I mean, I hear what I hear you. This is awkward, and you don't really know what to say. Yeah, I mean, I could talk about my weekend, and I mean this, I mean, I don't know. And she just started kind of, and before you know it, she started talking about the reason she was uncomfortable with the silence. And it had to do with her worldview of how things should be. And my paraphrasing was around that. So what I'm understanding is that when we're silent here and there's no like script or this and that throws you off. Because the way you like to be, and we're doing this and now we're making progress because we're talking about the process of the silence. And she's going into some deep stuff and I'm doing like, so you really feel, it sounds like it's a confidence issue for when, yeah, and the audience is watching this. I'm like, I got him. And I would not have got to that beauty if I would have filled the silence in, and the silence became the process.
I thought I gave Portia an opportunity to really get her thoughts out. And it was, like I said, in my personal life, I've been really working on listening to people and not listening just so that I can respond to what they're saying, but to just let them talk. And I think I've been doing pretty well with that. I think in this instance, it went pretty well too. And I learned, like how we've been learning today, that when you let people talk, they will talk. Eventually, they will. And they'll start to figure things out.
She gave me a space where I can just talk about anything in regards to this matter, this issue, this concern I have. And in her just letting me, in being silent, just letting me talk, I came up with the deep root of why I have this issue. And kind of came up with my own solution. And kind of came up with, okay, you can't feel guilty when you do this, just do it for yourself.
It's insight.
So for the second, this time, I was the counselor and tried to do a lot of reflection of feeling, just because after knowing this, it seemed like the most appropriate thing to do. And that's, I think, kind of the big thing of it is that I didn't feel like I had to do it for what you asked. I had to do it because it was the right productive thing to do for him. And so doing that, so after getting some of it, I felt the need to kind of go to some of the directive points where I was tying some things together and leading to another point, but then it wouldn't be there for too long. It would do that and then go back to
the reflective feeling. So like, and the way that I did it, it was like, some points it felt like it was maybe a little bit complete. Like this area was talked about, but it's not the core area of where you were trying to go. So I'm not gonna reflect on something that was just something you mentioned and was trying to actually go past when what you were trying to go to felt like it was really important to you.
That's
So, right. I don't want to interfere with where you're going just because it's a task that I have for myself. If you're moving in that direction, I want you to get there. And I'm going to stash some things. And so I did that too. Something that he mentioned seemed like it was more tied to what we're talking about now. So then trying to bring that back to, okay, you mentioned this earlier, and now we're here in a space where you couldn't really get there without dealing with that other stuff first, and now you dealt with that less.
Great example. That is very powerful reflective listening. Drawing something that he said in sentence 1 to 15 minutes later in sentence 94. Because it's not reflective listening is not about the skill necessarily of paraphrasing and reflecting content and thought. It's a presence. Because a lot of people are like, I'm not into that Rogerian client-centered counseling. That's not my style. It's not a style. It's not a technique necessarily. It's a therapeutic presence of just hearing someone is really what it is. There's techniques in that, but.
So he also used like a combination of like reflective and directive together to help go back to, I hear you saying this, but let's talk about this.
So you feel affirmed that he heard you.
Yes.
And I would imagine that I would assume you felt a bit more, I'll go in that direction with you because you're hearing me.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, and another part of it too is that I'm thinking about students who might be in this position, and like, honestly, I've been in situations where it's like, okay, the student doesn't need this to the degree that other students need, so what is it that I can offer them? Because you're not really in a position where I needed to give you advice or really direct you to a point. Like, we're more so kind of peer situation. Like, there's only so much I can give you in terms of advice, but I can also help you focus and center your thoughts a bit more and make you more of who you are and who you want to be, or even help you explore some things that you might not have necessarily gotten on your own. And so that's what I'm taking for youth. Like, youth who are really developed and past certain stages, there's still things that they can get from this program in terms of their development.
Yeah.
So
Great, man. Good work, fellas. My job is to understand, help, and process. So there lies the rub. That's the therapy, is just in what he said. And I make the process about the process. So what is this program to you? What is it that you need from me? I hear you saying that you're uncomfortable with being silent and you want me to do something. So what would that look like? Well, I wish you would just tell me the answers. So the answers are really important to you, right? Or you can get out of reflective listening and go into a different style. You can go into your directive counseling, So tell me more about what, or you can go into mentoring, So why do I have to be the one to teach you? Or something like that. Or you can go into self-disclosure. Man, I'll tell you what, I learned best when I had to go through struggle myself. I make it about the process as opposed to going, okay, I guess I'll just start giving you, answers to your questions. Because now it's not therapeutic anymore. Now it's not about the real issue. Because what he's saying is really about something else. When he's coming into your room saying, man, you got to tell me some stuff. I don't know what I'm doing here. It's about underneath that. What are you doing here? Why do you keep coming to this BAM group every week? You come every week, and yet you take out your phone and you keep insulting him. And we're talking about integrity. I'm at a loss. Help me understand your world. Why are you coming to this group? Does that make sense? Yeah. Going through the process. Más preguntas. More questions.
Just more or less a comment. And this is more of introspective. As I learn more about myself, I know I got ADD, and then you're also dealing with people introspective, dyslexia or maybe even distortion, and kind of reflecting back what they're saying. Kind of number one helps me to stay focused and to make sure that we're both saying the same things. Because sometimes when you say something back to a person, that's not really what they meant. You know what I'm saying? So it kind of helps me to make sure that I'm understanding what they're saying, and it helps them to make sure that's what they're really trying to say. Because they might go, no, what I'm saying is such and such and such and such.
And I'm glad you said a word there. What Daryl said was distortions. Because here's where reflective listening is not effective, is when you're dealing with someone with a personality disorder. Someone who's got antisocial personality disorder, which is, void of morale and remorse. Someone who's got a distortive personality where they just blame the world. My brother Philly. I cannot really talk to him about this stuff because he sees the world through the world owes him something, and that will never change. And so I can't process this stuff with him. Reflective listening doesn't work. It actually reinforces more distortion. If anyone watched The Sopranos when that was on that series? If you remember, Tony Soprano, what did he do? He went to therapy. The whole show was about him going to therapy, and he was full of antisocialism, and it got stronger as a result of the therapy. He never had any insight. He never really gained, because he would be listened to, and then he would come out feeling vindicated. So if you have someone who's full of distortions coming in and you're doing reflective listening, he potentially walk out and go, man, I felt heard and that I'm doing the right thing, because that's his distortions. And he's going to be like, yeah, Matthew told me I'm doing the right thing. When I listen to you, if I can tell myself, I really want to hear you, I want to hear you, then my intent is about hearing you, and the eye contact thing goes away without me even realizing. I'm like, oh my God, I was staring right at this guy, I didn't think about it.
So it eventually comes. It eventually comes, the contact.
It comes without realizing. It's like, how do you know when you're riding a bike? How do you know when you know how to play a guitar? How do you know when you can fluently speak another language? How do you know? There's an ascension that it's not like, oh, I'm doing it. It's like, wow, I've been riding for, oh man, we're not on the ground anymore, the plane's up in the air. Wow, I'm actually playing chords now. When did I start this? And it's the same thing with the therapy. Let's check out with one word. What are you leaving with that you didn't have over 3 hours ago? One word, sum it up.
Understanding.
Understanding.
Confidence.
Confidence.
Tools,
Tools.
resources,
Resources.
Reflect.
Reflection. Empathy.
Enthusiasm.
Enthusiasm.
Reinforcement.
Reinforcement. Connection. And with that, we out. Yeah.